Hello and a very warm welcome. This is a special time and place because hours after India and the United States put out the much anticipated text of the joint statement of the forthcoming trade deal, we have with us, ladies and gentlemen, the man of the match, the man of the moment, the man who is frankly on quite a roll. Soon after wrapping up the India-EU trade deal, to be able to get the India-US trade deal done as well. This is not just a normal interaction, even in a historical arc, this is quite special. Because there's been so much uncertainty in the build-up to this trade deal, so much turbulence in the dynamic between Delhi and DC. To finally have that behind us is quite remarkable. To find out the inside story, the andar ki khabar about what happened so far and what happens from here. Can we have a very warm round of applause as we welcome to this special conversation the man I described, and I'm sure all of you sitting here watching this NDTV Profit Conclave on television, social media, YouTube, wherever else would call the man of the moment. Piyush Goyal, welcome. You look very relieved. Is it like getting a big mountain off your back to be able to finally close out the text of the joint statement?
Not at all. I think I look the same. But I'll have to worry now that you're telling me I look relieved. Because I thought I was quite chilled out yesterday as I was day before.
No, yesterday and day before, after the deal was announced, of course. I'm talking about when the United States and the president in DC were creating, by saying the kind of things they were. It surely was a very stressful period for you.
Not at all. I don't think with Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji holding our back, any of us has to worry. He ensures that the national interest prevails over everything else. He gives us the confidence to be able to negotiate from a position of strength. And he always encourages us, nation first, Bharat ke hiton ki raksha karna hamari jawabdari hai. And I'm delighted that all through the negotiations, we had Prime Minister Modi's guidance, his leadership, and I don't think we ever felt stressed at all.
एक सवाल जो मुझे लगता है लोगों के जहन में होगा वो ये कि इतने दिनों से तनाव था, आखिरकार क्या बदला, which led to this trade deal finally going through. You've been on the verge of concluding the deal for a while. What changed over the last few hours that actually saw the deal ultimately getting announced?
मुझे तो लगता है तनाव आपको ज़्यादा
हमें तो बहुत तनाव था.
कोई तनाव नहीं था. और nothing changed. We have been negotiating. Negotiations, if done with sincerity and with the best interests of the nation in heart, to ensure that you protect all the sensitive sectors that you want to make sure that don't get affected in any way whatsoever, and to get 100% success is obviously not easy. It takes time. And I think it's been a nice journey through the last 1 year since Prime Minister Modi and President Trump decided that we should have a bilateral trade agreement, and the first tranche of which we should start negotiating. It's been truly a labor of love where I got very good support and cooperation from everybody, industry participants, farmer organizations, our seafood industry and fishermen, our MSME, Laghu Udyog Bharti, and other organizations, people from all across the country and stakeholders from different sections with whom we've continuously interacted to understand what we can do, what we cannot do. What's the best deal that can do good for India? And I'm delighted to share with you that not a single stakeholder, and I was just on the call with the farming industry, with the farmer leaders, with the farm minister, the agriculture minister. He has been today with 9 other agriculture ministers from across India during the day. Across the country, the feedback is extremely positive. Everybody is excited about the huge potential this free trade agreement, bilateral trade agreements, first tranche has opened up for the country. The amount of jobs and opportunities to invest and the amount of business potential that this will open up, the great future that exporters see selling into the United States, the fact that now India can look at getting ICT products of high quality for our data centers, for our AI mission, for the quantum computing mission. I think we are really in a sweet spot in our journey towards Viksit Bharat 2047.
So what I'm going to do is use this opportunity to go through some of the sectors and get Minister Goyal to try and explain, as everybody tries to wrap their head around the deal, on what specifically happens and with what kind of timelines. The first thing you've committed to or said is likely to happen is trade going up to 500 billion between India and the United States, almost 5x more than the base that you start with.
About 2.5x. We already do about 200 billion.
In terms of the exports that we're sending, how do you see how the commitments that you've made in terms of getting to that value
Well,
of
it's a
500
bilateral
billion?
trade that one looks at. We already at 200 billion plus bilaterally in goods and services. We are very confident it'll take us about 5 or 6 years to go to 500 billion. And this trade agreement, which gives us a competitive advantage, a comparative advantage over all the other nations whom we compete against. So China has 35%, Vietnam has probably 20%. So all our basic countries with whom we compete have a higher rate. We also have a number of zeros, both in farm produce that we export and in industrial goods, which we will continue to export at zero. I think the potential of growing exports to the US is humongous. We need industry to come up to speed. We need them to really go for it, create capacities, enjoy the fruits of economies of scale, ensure we consistently make high quality products. Sky's the limit, as the US ambassador said, limitless potential in this relationship.
Okay, in some
Likewise, India stands to gain a lot from products that we can get from the US. After all, we do need to get products like artificial intelligence equipment or data center equipment or quantum computing machinery. Now, all of these very often face difficulties and controls in different geographies. With this unlocking of this relationship to the higher levels, and with the deep friendship between our leaders, this will ensure a free flow of products that are needed in India. This will help us get our aircrafts, engines, and spare parts faster, which we need. We already have orders worth, I think, 80 or 90 billion on Boeing, on GE, on the aerospace ecosystem. We need that to come quickly, and I've been telling my American friends that please ensure that we get the supplies that we need. Our steel production is going to double from 140 million to about 300 million tons. We are going to need more coking coal. We don't have enough coking coal in the country, and we will be required to import. And rather than being on the clutches of one or two exporting nations, I would rather have diversified suppliers, more the merrier. It brings our buyers, our Indian buyers who are getting this material, more competition. I think in every respect, this is a trade deal that will actually help us unlock huge potential on both sides, and collectively the 9 free trade agreements that Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has spearheaded and finalized, that cover 38 countries, of which 37 are developed nations. Mauritius is the only one left. It's also got about 4 times our per capita or 5 times our per capita income. And most of the people there, in any case, people of Indian origin. And they don't have much that they compete against India with. So again, we complement each other. The rest of the economies are all complementary to India. So this is a win-win game. We only stand to benefit from going across the continents, across the globe, expanding our international engagements, because I think no country in the world in history has become a developed nation without looking outside their own country.
So I'm going to get some questions from the audience as well. So you can have your questions ready, and we've got some very interesting minds over here, so we'll have those questions out. But I want to talk for a moment about imports as well from the United States, because we're liberalizing imports. And we've seen in particular concerns being raised by the opposition around agriculture, and concerns that somehow, at least that's the fear that is being propagated, that India gets swamped by agricultural produce. Now, I've seen some of the comments that you made in the press conference this afternoon, and I've also seen the tweet of the Agricultural Secretary in the United States, who obviously they're claiming it to be a victory for their farmers and for their local constituents, which is
not rocket science,
quite
obviously.
imaginable. So do you want to explain how you intend to deal with the potential backlash which will start to be created on agricultural imports?
Well, I think everybody in this room and all your viewers are basically familiar with what are the produce of our farmers in India.
Sure.
That really define farming in large measure and where we are self-sufficient. And let me read out to you some of the items that we've kept outside any concession. So these items, there's absolutely zero concession. They continue to have the same treatment as before, even after this free trade agreement. So no concession, exempt from this trade deal. We have meat, we have poultry, all dairy products, GM food products, cereals like rice, wheat, sugar, soya meal, corn, that's maize, millets like jawar, bajra, ragi, kodu, amaranth, fruits like banana, strawberries, cherries, citrus fruits, pulses like green pea, Kabuli chana, moong, oil seeds, certain animal feed, groundnut, honey, malt and its extracts, non-alcoholic beverages, flour and meals, starch, essential oils, ethanol for fuel, tobacco, bacha kya hai? Where is the fear?
No, say
Almost every farmer commodity which is made in India in good, respectable quantity, where we are not dependent on imports, has been kept out of this trade deal. Now, there are a few products which we have been importing for years and years, from the Congress time. I wish they had looked into the mirror and asked themselves why they had to import soya bean oil when they were in government. Why did they allow palm oil to come into India? And we know how harmful it is for the health also and in every respect. But it's Congress who has done this criminal and negligent act of allowing palm oil into the country and in a way making people so dependent on palm oil, which is we are suffering. Our farmers are suffering. Things like mustard oil and all, which should otherwise have got a huge demand, suffer because of products that the Congress allowed to come in. So I think there's still many products. Our overall exports of farm produce from India and marine products is $55 billion. That's about 5 lakh crores. Yet we continue to import about $30 billion. That's about 2.7 lakh crores. So there are a few items we have some shortages. And if we allow those items to come in, who is the beneficiary? The consumers. Who is at a loss? Nobody. Because there is a shortage, we don't have enough production, there is a demand. And while opening up, we've been very, very calibrated, even in those items. Making sure there's enough transition period, making sure prices are protected in India for Indian production. So it's a very logically, carefully thought out strategy in consultation with farm organizations, with the line ministries, which will ultimately help the Indian economy and the Indian farmer both prosper.
Okay, I'm going to get Neeraj Shah, who's the markets editor at NDTV Profit, to ask your question, Minister. Go for it, Neeraj.
Mr. Goyal, there is a presumption that no country will be very successful in the global stage unless they export. A lot of these FTAs would probably lead to more exports, and the presumption in the economist's camp is that that will induce private Capex. Do you believe we'll finally see private Capex happen in India over the next 24 months?
Well, undoubtedly. Just look at the sectors where we've got now preferential duty coming down to 18% reciprocal tariffs. whether it's textiles, footwear, sportswear, leather goods, sports goods, the entire range of labor-oriented goods are all down to 18. In many cases, we even have preferential tariff of zero duty access into the US. So for example, if we look at industrial goods, all our smartphones go at zero duty and will continue to go at zero duty. Our pharmaceutical industry will get a big leg up because they continue to go at zero duty. Our gems and diamonds will continue to go at zero duty. There's some essential oils, certain home decor items like chandeliers, illuminating signs, parts of lamps, seats, they'll all go at zero duty. And there's a whole list of items, natural rubber, items made of plastic, wood, etc. Similarly, in agriculture, we've got zero duty access in terms of reciprocal tariffs. There'll be no reciprocal tariff on all spices, which is a very big interest of ours. On tea and coffee, which is a big interest of India's. On copra, coconut oil, big interest of India. Vegetable wax, nuts like areca nut. Areca nut farmers are delighted and joyous. Brazil nuts, cashew nuts, chestnuts. Fruits and vegetables like avocados, bananas. One of the largest producer of bananas.
How would you look at the concerns of apple growers?
Well, I think if you heard me in the morning, you would have by now figured out that we've done such calibrated opening. First, India is an importer of apples. Our production is about 21 lakh tons. Our consumption is about 27 lakh tons. We continue to import 5.5 lakh tons or thereabouts every year. Point one. Point two, the acreage under apples is not easily increased because it's in the hill areas. Consumption, on the other hand, continues to increase. So while we are trying to increase productivity, we still continue to have outpaced demand, given the higher prosperity level, higher income levels of the people of India, which is clearly leading to more shortages. Point three, today, as we speak, we import from the United States of America substantial quantities of apple. And what is the way government has helped our apple farmers? We put a floor, minimum import price, 50 rupees per kilo. Nobody can import below that. And there's a 50% duty, 25 bucks. So 75 rupees landed at the port is the minimum at which anybody can bring from abroad. Then there are other costs associated with it. So really our farmers have easily a protection up to 100 bucks or thereabouts from imported production if they make good quality. In this deal, we have done a calibrated opening of a quota, which is less than what we are importing today from America. And that quota, we've kept a minimum import price of 80 rupees and a 20 rupee duty on that. How does that sound, ladies and gentlemen? Can that be harmful for India?
We'll get tasty apples. I mean, that's one thing. Although Himachali and Kashmiri apples are my favorite.
Now, when we are currently giving a floor of 75 rupees, 50 plus 25, even in the quota, we have kept a floor of 80 plus 20, 100 bucks. And then other costs, so it cannot come to the market for less than 130, 140. So Indian farmers are protected in a variety of ways. Sometimes you do quotas, sometimes you do transitional, gradual opening, sometimes you restrict the benefit to a nominal tariff reduction. So there are various ways. Even when you open, if at all, it's a product which also competes with India. There are many products we have no competition. For example, as I said earlier, soybean oil. But there also we've not done a complete opening. It's a quota. So very intelligently we have negotiated. Obviously, America will have to talk about the benefits that they get, and everybody gets some benefits. Everybody gets market access. But the sum total of all is that Indian farmers are protected and Indian farmers will in fact get many, many more opportunities to export goods that I've just shared with you, where we have a lot of potential, where we get even zero duty access, or others where our reciprocal tariff falls to 18.
I'm going to get Tamanna Inamdar, who's the managing editor of NDTV Profit, to ask the next question. Go for it, Tamanna.
So I must say that the way India has handled all of the provocations that came from the United States on X, etc., it shows how deftly we have strategized this. So congratulations for that. But I must ask the question on people's minds. Can we see this deal through? Because there have been circumstances where the US has gone back on deals they have announced.
Not to the best of my knowledge, but you may have to do a little more research on that. Irrespective, the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and President Trump share very strong bonds. Also, the India deal is a very detailed, very elaborate exercise over the last 12 months. We were amongst the first to start negotiating. So our deal is very holistic, comprehensive, and detailed. Many times deals have been announced which are frameworks without the detailing having been done. So in our case, all those details are also sorted out on paper and exchanged between the two sides. So it's a very robust deal, and typically how India works and how Prime Minister Modi works, full assurance that this will get implemented. I think it'll take us about a month and a half to do the documentation, and we should be on. Whereas the joint statement has already been issued early this morning. So we are looking to see the executive order reducing the US tariffs to 18, reciprocal tariffs to 18% very soon.
Now, one of the things this statement put out by the White House says is that India is also going to be cutting back on import of oils from Russia. And that it also uses pretty aggressive language to make the point that if we change our mind and we start importing again, all these reciprocal tariffs will come back. How do you look at this kind of coercive language being used?
I think the Ministry of External Affairs has already spoken on this issue on several occasions. I have made a statement on the floor of the House, and this is a subject that the Foreign Office looks after. I don't see any relation of trade with issues which are handled by the Foreign Office.
Okay, I'm going to get Mr. Jaikumar to ask a question. Sir.
Hi. Feedback from the market, Piyush. Table thumping positive. I think people are delighted that it got signed as quickly as it did. A basic document. Considering that there are multiple industries here which are affected, I talk on behalf of one, not that I'm part of the industry, which is the pharmaceutical industry, which has done India proud in terms of the kind of exports it's doing. Where if you see, I'm just reading out from the 3-page document that got signed, which says that, it's a zero duty scenario and et cetera, But there's also one line which is it a fly in the ointment, which says negotiated outcomes subject to investigation under section 232. It's not easily understood what that means. Is that meant to be a disclaimer of sorts?
Not at all. Pharmaceuticals will continue to get zero duty access into the US. It's an agreed position. Section 232 is a national security section in the American law under which an investigation is carried out, and the pharma investigation is ongoing. They haven't made a determination as yet. Now, till that determination is made, they cannot presuppose and make any mention of a particular rate in the document. So, therefore, that language comes in. But I can assure you, in our understanding, the pharma industry, for generic pharma and its ingredients, the chemicals that go into it, have been given a zero duty assurance. Once the section 232 findings come out, we'll be doing the necessary paperwork.
IT services are very important in terms of export to the United States from an Indian perspective. Have you got any assurance on H-1B visas? Because immigration has been such a vexed issue in the United States. What's your message to all those companies and those engineers who are banking on those H-1B visas?
Well, those days are gone. I remember the H-1B visa story had gradually deteriorated into a lottery. So if I needed 2 H-1B visas, I would calculate that 1 out of 7 are going to get it. I would apply for 15 and hope to get 2 out of those. Gradually, the process had gone down to that level, point 1. Point 2, post-COVID, I have not heard any company, absolutely any company, come to me and ask me to talk to the US or try to negotiate for more H-1B visas. The world has changed. Today, the world recognizes that so much can be done, which could have been done at home during COVID, can be done offshore. And rather than struggling to take people from India to the US and then pay them top dollar salaries, because the cost of living in US at $90,000 per capita income versus $3,000 per capita income in India are humongously high. So A, you pay more to the person spends more, but all to the US economy. Whereas in India, when they outsource that work to our global capability centers, not only do we create jobs in India, not only do our people work and spend and pay taxes in India, not only are they with their families, but it also makes the business more attractive and profitable for all those who are running the 1800 plus GCCs in India. I'll join you in a minute, just about a minute. You can engage with the audience.
Okay, sure. So we've been hearing different kinds of reactions. I want to just get Alex to take over and talk a bit about, this is what happens when you're negotiating so many trade deals in different parts of the world. You never know who's calling and why that might be required. But Alex, work your magic and get some reactions on the trade deal and the fact that we'll have Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman here in just a short while from now.
So actually, the interesting thing about the timing of the trade deal was that the big hue and cry post the budget, and market men and women in this room know what I'm talking about, dissipated somewhat. So let me go across to Jake's first. I'm putting you on the spot. As always. So that abbreviation, that 3-letter abbreviation that the market was so disappointed about, do you think that this completely takes away from that? The positive news, the tailwinds that we've gotten?
Personally, if you ask me, letters that come one after the other and sometimes repeat like STT, etc., shouldn't be taken too seriously. It was people needed to latch on to something. In fact, if anything, I felt a budget on a Sunday is fine. But having trading on a Sunday made no sense, especially when 2/3 of the market participants were not there.
Okay.
And that's why panic just set in and people used some crutch to sort of go on. But that's a fly in the ointment, if you will. This is the real deal.
This is the real deal.
In more senses than one.
I love it. So Jakes, trust Jakes to use the tagline of the event, the real deal.
That's why I said in more ways than one.
There you go. So
we see Devna Mehra there. I want to pin her down on the impact this has on the markets. And just generally, one is the actual exports, right? The other is the idea of spirits being lifted, because frankly, flows coming into India were marred because of all this turbulence around trade. To what extent, Alex, you want to give her a mic?
Yeah.
To what extent do you think that then now gets resolved, Devna?
I don't think the FII coming in, that really makes this makes a direct difference. What it makes a direct difference to is the Indian economy. So, both in the listed and unlisted space. So that would be the kind of first order of impact. And that naturally, if the earnings go up, then it attracts whether it's domestic or foreign investors. I am of the view that we spend too much time thinking about what FIIs will do when there's no correlation between what FIIs do and what the market does. That's a matter of data. You plot the statistical data, there is no correlation. So I think this is also that we want something to talk about, but it is not, we don't need to make a guess on what FIIs will do. The more important thing is that it changes the fundamentals for the economy, as I said, both for the listed and unlisted space. And exports typically are also, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are also the labor-intensive parts of the economy. So hopefully it also changes the employment scene, which is something where we do need a boost.
You know, Rahul, I don't want to go to Rahul, of course, Rahul Bharti, because at the GST conclave, I remember this very, very vividly. There was a question about resumption of demand, right? And small cars, you said, would make a big comeback. You said that capacity would need to be added. We would move from negative volumes to positive volumes. The question that a lot of people in the market are asking, do you see this demand? And are you positive heading into FY27 that the customers come back?
Well, I could predict it that time, but I had the confidence, but I didn't have the numbers in hindsight. So small cars were growing at a rate of -4%, let's say April to July, because the announcement was made in August. Q3, we grew by 24% in small cars. So a swing from -4 to +24. And we could, even in August, when the announcement was made, we accelerated our Capex cycles, and we have 2 plants coming now. One in April, the other in July, of about 250,000 per annum capacity. So 5 lakh capacity will be added by just Maruti Suzuki in the next few months in response to the GST bonanza that the FM gave to the small car customers.
Fantastic. So talk about private Capex coming back. I want to go to Mr. Gujral here. And of course, everybody knows him. He is with Sirma. And new age technology is what everyone is focused on. The street is really excited with what you're doing, with what your peers are doing. Talk to us a little bit about what your reaction was when you saw some of the headlines. Maybe you watched NDTV Profit and you figured out that the trade deal was signed. What was your initial reaction?
See, we are not present in America as of date for exports, but America finds a pivot for us to continue exports in the future. And in my considered opinion, EMS industry, if it has to survive, has to be export-oriented industry. It has not been. We export about 1,000 crores of electronics to Europe. Long-term sustenance and growth of EMS will come only with exports, because rationality in the domestic demand will come sometime. A 30-40% growth in domestic demand is irrational. And I think for that it is very, very essential that the companies invest. And we have grown our gross block by 3x over the last 4 years.
I'll come back to that, sir.
This, I must say, is amongst the first times in now, it's been a pretty long career that this has happened, that we got a live interview going on, and something so important happens that the minister needs to go, so I need to interrupt this interview. I want to ask him who called. क्या sir? आपने तो सबको स्ट्रेस कर दिया. उनको लगा कहीं चले ही तो नहीं गए इंटरव्यू के बीच में.
Friends, there is so much attraction for the India story today. Fastest growing large economy. For the last 4 years, expected to be for the next 25 years, the fastest growing large economy. $4 trillion today. Any maths you can do, and I see some very good experts in maths in the audience, this will be a $30 trillion economy in 2047. That's the India story that we are negotiating. And that's the strength which helps me negotiate smarter and better. When I show people, look, I've got a $26 billion waiting to grow. That's the business opportunity. It attracts people. So right now, as we speak, and I'm sorry I had to go out because some of these international engagements are at a very fast pace. We are almost on the verge of closing one more free trade agreement.
Which one, sir? Which one? Which one is the? Which
You'll
one
hear
is the?
about it very soon.
Which one is the next one that's going?
मतलब ऐसे नहीं कि तो बोलो हर हफ्ते.
आपका तो वैसे ही ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड चल रहा है अभी.
But we have Canada who wants to launch negotiations, so terms of reference are under negotiation. When the Honorable Prime Minister of Canada comes, we launch that. 2 days back, I launched the GCC, Six Nation GCC Free Trade Agreement. We finalized the terms of reference and we launched that. We already have discussions going on to expand the PTA with the Mercosur group of companies. When Prime Minister was in South Africa, they expressed the desire that we also want to do a trade deal with India. This is your Bharat, which all of you should be proud of.
Sir, but I want to, before we wrap up, ask you a larger question about the idea that globalization was in retreat, the idea that we're moving away from free trade. Now, for various reasons, a lot of which not in our control, we've now reached a situation where we are signing up trade deals which have been in the works literally for decades, or at least being spoken of for decades. How do you look at the larger question of the philosophical retreat of global trade and the globalization project and the reality of so many trade deals being signed?
I disagree with that. Globalization is neither retreating, nor taking a backseat, nor slowing down. On the contrary, global trade continues to grow despite all this turbulence, if you look at the numbers. Our own trade, goods and services combined, will grow this year by at least 5-6%, maybe 6% or thereabouts. So rest assured that and we'll grow both in goods and in services. We're growing in both in this turbulent year. So whoever talks of globalization being in retreat is ill-informed, sadly. Second, look at the philosophy of the negotiations of the Modi government versus the past. It's very important to understand which are the free trade agreements that the Congress party and the partners like DMK and Trinamool Congress and Samajwadi Party, this ilk of UPA or so-called India Alliance, what are the free trade agreements they did? I looked at the countries with which they did free trade agreements. The only 2 developed nations, only 2, with which they did a free trade agreement was Japan and Korea. And the rest of the 30-odd countries with whom they did free trade agreements or preferential trade agreements were all our competitors, either LDCs or developing countries, just like us. So imagine in one of their trade deal, if they do give concessions to, in ASEAN agreement, they give concessions to Indonesia, Vietnam. They're actually shooting themselves in the foot.
Okay.
Whereas all of our agreements are with developed nations whom we complement, not compete with. So my only point is, understand the philosophy of this government and how it is going to help Bharat grow.
Thank you very much, Minister Goyal, for joining us. It's very rare to have the man of the moment join us on the day when he's in the center of all the action, as we saw quite literally with that unexpected phone call. I'll ask him later, kiska phone aaya tha, kya baat hui, but that's for an off-record conversation, not this. Thank you very much, Minister Piyush Goyal, for joining us at this NDTV Profit Conclave. And nicely done on the EU deal and the US deal. I wait to find out who's next. Thank you, sir.
I don't know how Rahul does it, but every time we have some big announcement or a big engagement happening, by coincidence, I'm sure this would have been decided.
हमने बोला था डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प को कि आज कर देना हमारा बड़ा इवेंट है, and we want to ensure it's a very topical, newsy event, and that's kind of how the timelines went. Thank you very much, Minister Goyal, for joining us. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are far from done. As we say thank you to one of the heavyweights of the Narendra Modi government, we're getting all set to welcome the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, because remember, huge tailwinds now on the back of the announcement of the India-US trade deal around spirits and around potentially flows into the economy. So we'll have the Finance Minister with us in just a moment from now. So this is where all the action really is, the NDTV Profit Conclave.